We've never hosted a podcast together. This is...
Who's opening?
So can I change the group chat name too?
Yeah, I love that.
Succulent.
Yeah, I love that. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 25th episode of the Death Mountain Podcast.
Still not live.
Still not live,
Even though we told you it would be live.
Yeah, that's the one we actually did promise would, promise it, but we said we were going to make this one live. And
well, Joey
that's true.
Said that this podcast was going to be live. And as you've probably noticed by now,
there's no Joey.
There's no Joey. After Joey's meltdown last week, we actually wrote him out of DMP. So Trevor's actually in charge of DMP now. All operations, everything falls on Trevor. So he gets to make all the head honcho decisions now. You probably noticed this is the first podcast Trevor and I have hosted together.
Yes. In
25 episodes. I've hosted a lot of them with Joey, but R.I.P. Joey.
Yep.
Press F to pay respects.
There. All right, we can get on now with the show now. But yeah, so that's all we really have to say on that matter. We don't really have much more to discuss now or ever.
Well, actually, we have a lot more to discuss.
Oh, yeah.
So last week's episode, we actually missed the Ryzen refresh by one day. The Ryzen refresh dropped the day after we recorded last week's podcast, which kind of sucks because we record our podcasts about 5 days before we release them. So between the time we record and the time we drop the videos, a lot of news can come out and happen. So I was pretty upset about that. But we're making up for it this week by having most of this episode revolve around the Ryzen refresh.
You guys know we love AMD here at Death Mountain Productions. We love talking about them. They've been doing so much.
Not as much as we love Xbox, though, and Fortnite.
True. Why am I not playing Fortnite right now?
I am.
Whoa. All right, well... You know what can power your Fortnite experience? AMD Ryzen. Anyways, so AMD Ryzen, they put out the second generation processors. We told you about all the preliminary specs that AMD really told us, the clock speeds and all that bull. I don't even know. So they finally allowed the reviewers to benchmark it, and so it's everywhere. And the general consensus right now, if you just look at it numbers-wise, it's still trailing Intel, and it's only gone up just a little bit performance-wise since it's still the Zen 1 architecture.
Yep.
They bumped up the clock speeds because they refined the nanometer thing. We've already gone over all this. But, again, we have the benchmarks now, and we've seen it. But what we didn't know is how it would affect just overall performance, just like reliability and stuff.
Performance and the market, really. I mean, for those of you who aren't as updated on Ryzen, Ryzen Zen 1 released back, early 2017? March.
And then April was Ryzen 5.
Yep. So, and that was really AMD's first re-entry, I guess, back into the, I don't really know necessarily that they've ever been a major competitor in like the huge multi-threaded workload.
Actually, they were on top in like the in the 2000s. They were actually the first one I think to hit the 1 gigahertz mark.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they used to be huge in 2000s. Even the like mid 2000s, they were pretty big too. And then FX, and then they died. Okay.
But not at that price point. So of course, Ryzen Zen 1 was originally kind of this revolution to the consumer market of CPUs, because at that point, if you were buying a CPU, you were probably buying a 6700K or a 7700K, which was either just released or just about to come out at that point.
2 months prior.
2 months prior. And that was really your best option, one for gaming and even for workloads at a consumer level.
Basically.
I mean, because the only things above that were the X series i7s, and then of course you can get up into your Xeon processors, but those are enthusiast level processors, not consumer level. So the original Zen release basically brought these high core count CPUs. I believe Ryzen 5 is the 612, and then 7 is the 816.
Yep. There's also 4.8 Ryzen 5s that came later.
But it brought those core count CPUs at a price point of a consumer level processor. So it really shook up the market.
With much better instructions per clock. That's the key thing here.
Exactly.
Because the FX, which were 8 core, which were basically like 4 cores and 4 fake cores, that was a whole other thing. FX was just a complete just disaster.
Oh, yeah.
But it sold kind of well, I guess. But anyways, so yeah, they wrote FX for 5 years, and they managed to get the instructions per clock over like 50% higher with these new ones, which is massive because Intel's usually like 5 to 10% per generation. So that just brought them almost to Intel levels. It was like maybe 4th to 5th generation Intel instructions per clock levels. Clock speeds are really close. So,
and that's mainly in terms of single core performance, because in multi-threaded performance, of course, the more cores paired up with similarly priced Intel processors blew the Intel processors out of the water.
That's where the Ryzen's key success was, because again, FX had a lot of those cores and threads. It just didn't have the IPC, so now they have both.
So Intel's reaction to that was on their Coffee Lake CPUs, they upped the core count. So now, of course, the 8700K is a 6-core, 12-thread processor. Usually, I think it retails at $340 right now.
Retails at $340. It was about like $419 for a while, but that was just market inflation. But it launched at $350, I believe.
So now that Intel's responded, AMD has kind of responded with this Ryzen refresh. Now, this isn't Zen 2, so this is still Zen 1, but they did release 4 new processors. We've got 2 new Ryzen 5s. We have the 2600 and the 2600X, which is the 6-core, 12-thread, and we have the Ryzen 7 2700, and the 2700X, which is the 8-core, 12-thread. I'm sorry, 8-core, 16-thread.
Yes.
Math is hard.
The other ones are coming later. We don't know anything about those
So
yet.
since they are a refresh and they're not a new architecture, it's kind of like the Skylake to KB Lake boost, where it's just kind of a little bit of a performance bump.
Even that was technically a new architecture.
Technically, yeah.
It just wasn't much of a...
It was a modified Zen 1, not really a Zen 2.
Yes.
So AMD boasted kind of a 2 to 3% single core performance, but they also said up to 20% performance boost for multi-threaded over the original Zen architecture. So that's a pretty significant jump. I believe most of the reviewers have reported pretty similar numbers to that.
Yeah.
And the other main thing that's really nice about this refresh is they fixed a lot of the Gen 1 bugs. So of course the original Ryzen release had a lot of memory compatibility issues. And I believe one of the other things they fixed was that the frequency stability across all the cores wasn't really a major issue, but you had different cores running at slightly different frequencies.
Oh, yeah.
So with the Zen refresh here, with Gen 2, they actually balanced that out a lot better, so all of your cores are running pretty much the same frequency.
Of course. And that helps a lot, too, with just general overall just reliability and consistency, which is basically, like, consistency is one of the key things with Ryzen 2nd Gen, which a lot of... some reviewers have gone over, some of them don't, because a lot of them just focus on performance. But memory is another big one. A lot of people, that was like the big complaint, was Ryzen was not really compatible with, or the chipsets as well, were not really that compatible with faster memory. Even like anything higher than like 2933, or even lower than that sometimes, would just, no. Especially at launch, and it would just crash, blue screen, even if it was rated for those speeds already, because that's a difference. There's like, you can overclock lower rated memory, that can cause problems. But this, you literally could not get to the rated speed. Now you can get up to like 3600 or something reliably.
It's guaranteed up to 2933.
Guaranteed up to 29, oh yeah, because that's like rated speeds.
That's the rated speeds, but it will run above that.
Yep, to about, I think, 3600 if your memory is rated for that. So that helps a lot with consistency, as well as it's just a more reliable processor itself and not like crashing randomly with blue screens. I don't really know why, but it is. Yeah. And that helps a lot, especially because a lot of it's built into the processor, because we found, like, I've seen some like videos and stuff where they put a 2nd gen in an X370 or even a B350 board, and a lot of the enhancements carried over.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really, I guess, a lot of what they did was put in the processor and not the chipset, which I think is kind of neat. Yeah.
And part of that performance jump, kind of the big change, I guess, that was made to the processors is they do run, the TDP is increased by about 10 watts per chip, so 10 watts higher for Ryzen 5 and for Ryzen 7.
They bumped it up to 105 for the 7, and 65 for the lower ones is the same as usual, and then 95 for the Ryzen 5X chip.
So, of course, that power bump, 1, gives you increased performance, and 2, I'm sure, relates to the increased stability as well as the modifications they made to Zen 1.
Yep, and because of that, they gave you better coolers
They
for
did.
one of them, and they lowered some of them for the others.
Mm-hmm.
But like you heard before, they threw in previous podcasts, they have that Wraith Prism on the top one, which is it has an RGB fan and an RGB ring this time.
Yep.
And that's based on the famous Wraith coolers of even the FX days. Those things were awesome. And
the coolers perform really well.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, those things were sold for like $60 on eBay for a while.
Yeah, and so realistically, when you think about it, this is what really gives Ryzen the edge over Intel, at least in my personal opinion, because, of course, single-threaded performance, it still is behind Intel a little bit. I believe frame rate-wise, in terms of gaming, you're usually behind like 3 to 5 frames. So it's not a significant difference, but
like 100.
But Intel does still have the edge
Sure.
over AMD in terms of single-threaded performance. Multi-threaded performance, of course, on Ryzen is a lot better. But the fact that AMD includes a stock cooler in all 4 of their second-gen processors without bumping up the price is very significant because, one, not only are they, all 4 of them, good stock coolers, especially the Prism, which is their new one, but that kind of takes out the additional cost of having to buy an aftermarket, either AIO or
Exactly.
fan cooler when you're pricing through your PC build. So that really adds a lot of value to Ryzen on top of the performance.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't really have to buy another cooler, which is nice. So if you want to pay that $30 more and get the X series chip, not only are you guaranteed a higher clock speed anyways, it's going to be very slight if you have the cooling performance to boot, but it has that cooler and it's pretty minimal. It's pretty easy to install, unlike like a bunch of bigger coolers, and that makes it just really nice. If you already have a cooler, there is no need. You can go to the lower one and overclock it. If you don't want to overclock, you can go to the X series for $30 more. So it's kind of giving you a lot of choice. It's really nice that they still let you overclock any processor. I'm glad they let you do that.
Oh yeah.
So you have a lot of options. I'm interested to see how X sales are. The pre-orders, I think, were higher for the X series this time.
They were.
So that is a difference because a lot of people went for the lower ones last generation. Because they came, not only, because the higher ones didn't even come with coolers last time.
Nope, they did not.
And the lower ones came with like the Spire and stuff, and they just overclocked it all the way up.
Yep.
So this time, we're seeing X series pick up a little bit.
Which is good.
Yeah, so it's, I'm really excited to see where AMD continues to take the Ryzen lineup.
Yeah, so general consensus, if you are about to start your next PC build and you're wondering what should I put in it, right now the i7-8700K is $340, that's the Amazon price, and then the 2700X is going to be, or I believe is out now,
Yes.
$330.
$330.
$3,300. $330, so it's $10 cheaper than the i7-8700K, which is a 6-core, 12-thread. Of course, the 2700X is an 8-core, 16-thread, so you do get more cores, more threads. I believe the clock speeds are not that much different either.
It goes up to 4.3 gigahertz, I believe.
And then I believe the i7 goes up to 4.7 gigahertz, if I recall correctly. So of course, with the i7, you are going to get a little more overclocking potential. If you're really, really getting into single-threaded performance, like if you're building a gaming machine, that might be the option for you. Personally, my recommendation would, at this point, be the 2700X. One, like I said, like we were talking about, the single-thread performance is almost not even there. It's just marginally behind Intel, so you're not really sacrificing anything by going that way.
Yep.
And if you are a content creator, you do streaming, you ever want to do any of that stuff, the multi-threaded performance is absolutely going to blow Intel out of the water. And it comes with a cooler, especially the Prism cooler.
Yes.
So that that takes away another. I mean, the cooler basically adds a $35. I believe that's about what you get a good, decent air cooler for.
Yeah.
So it basically adds another $35 value on top of already being $10 cheaper than the i7. So that would be my personal recommendation. You are free to chime in if you have any different views or differing opinions.
Yeah, I suggest Ryzen for basically everyone. Esports pros, I always suggest Intel for esports pros because you're probably running a 240 hertz monitor. You want to get as close as you can to that. But otherwise, yeah, Ryzen. A1 chip, and then Threadripper's coming soon, so you'll hear more about that too.
And Zen 2. Zen 2, which I'm very excited for.
Yes.
Especially with this refresh. If this refresh is as good as it is, it's, like I said, it's not a huge performance jump, but it's enough of a jump to where it really, really adds extra value to Ryzen. So I can only imagine what they'll do with Zen 2.
Yeah. 2019. All right. Well, that's enough Zen talk. That's all we really know right now. We'll get back to you with AMD news once Threadripper comes around, or maybe graphics. But anyways, we got a little bit of gaming to tell you guys. We don't really have much big stories. We have the Splatoon update 3.0. Adds a ton of new stuff. Adds a new stage. Adds like 4 new weapons from the get-go. Adds like 100 items. So I'm definitely going to be playing that. That launches tonight as of this podcast recording, and that's already going to be out when you guys are watching that. But if you weren't aware, go play Splatoon. Lots of new stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
Also, one of my favorite things, and one I'm really excited to talk about, even if it's very brief, Halo Online El Dorito mod. So basically, Halo Online, it kind of
I'm sorry, did you say El Dorito?
El Dorito. Like Mountain Dew and Doritos. And it
Carry on.
And it came out on 420, which is...
Oh, okay.
So they basically went...
Makes sense.
They basically went full on with this release. But it's El Dorito, and that's the mod, the name it's called. It's literally shaped like a Dorito. But it's basically modded Halo Online, which is the Russian free version of Halo, which is based on the Halo 3 engine. And that actually shut down after El Dorito was already in development and already available. But they were working on 0.6 for almost a whole year after the last update, and now they have basically recreated Halo 3 in its entirety. They got rid of all the Halo Online weird stuff and basically just recreated Halo 3 to its core, and it has like a really nice server browser, really optimized for PC now. There really isn't much to say, because just think Halo 3, but it's on the computer, and it's free. So go try it. The official download links are on Reddit /Halo Online. So you can go over there and find El Dorito, and there's like thousands of players playing it. It's a lot of fun. It'll take you back to the good old days of Halo, and it's about the best you can get on PC right now.
I'm going to have to go try that out.
You should. It's great. But there really isn't much to say besides Halo 3 on PC.
Yeah. Which I'm totally okay with.
Yep.
Well, that about does it for this week. This has been a blast. We've never hosted a podcast together.
Yeah.
It went really well. Today's video sponsor is Death Mountain Productions. We are our own video sponsor.
We're sponsoring ourselves.
We are self-funded. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, because YouTube's algorithms have shifted and changed around a little bit. So you might not always see our videos once we upload them, even if you are subscribed. So when you hit that bell, you will get a notification that we've uploaded a video. We do upload at 9 a.m. every Saturday, so we are consistent about it. So if you watch our videos regularly, you won't have a problem with that, but the bell does help us out. And
leave a comment if you are an Intel fanboy and want to roast us. But I will respond to you if you do that. I'm watching you. Don't. And if you dislike because you like Intel, can we see who dislikes our videos?
No.
Dang it. Well.
No witch hunting, Trevor.
Okay, yeah, this channel has a no witch hunt policy.
No witch hunt policy.
All right.
Unless it's Joey, because we wrote him out of the show.
That's right. Maybe he'll show up in the comments. Watch the comments. Leave a like. Anyways, this is Trevor with Death Mountain Productions. This is Cody. And from all of us here, you stay classy, Spokane.